My suitcase sits by the front door like a faithful dog waiting to be walked. 2 weeks of clothes folded with military precision, my passport tucked into a leather sleeve, a folder of flight confirmations and hotel reservations lying on the console table. The late afternoon light slants through the blinds, making pale stripes across the polished floor. For months I've been looking forward to this, a family trip to Barcelona. My first real holiday with Daniel and Rachel since my husband died. I've been telling friends about it, practicing Spanish phrases, buying sun hats. They were supposed to pick me up at 6. It's 5:43. The refrigerator hums in the kitchen. Somewhere outside, a neighbor's lawnmower drones. I check my phone for the 10th time. Nothing. Then it vibrates. Text from Daniel. I swipe it open, expecting we're 5 minutes away. Instead, I read, "You won't be joining us." My wife wants only her family. No greeting. No apology. Just that flat message. My thumb hovers over the screen, trembling slightly. I blink, thinking I misread. But the words stay there, black on white. My wife wants only her family. For a moment I'm frozen, still holding the phone as though it's grown heavier. In the reflection of the hallway mirror, I see myself, blouse, travel pants, necklace, like a woman rehearsing for a trip she's already been cut from. I type, "Daniel?" Nothing. Is this a joke? Nothing. I sit down on the edge of the bench by the door, staring at the luggage tags dangling from the suitcases. My boarding pass peeks from the folder. Seat 4A, boarding time 7:25. I bought them all, even the upgrades. My phone buzzes again, a new notification. I snatch it up. Not Daniel. Not Rachel. A friend forwarding a screenshot from Instagram. Rachel's story showing a boomerang of champagne glasses clinking in an airport lounge, captioned "Family Trip." In the frame, I see Daniel's arm draped over the back of a chair. No empty seats. Another notification, a WhatsApp group chat exploding. What happened? Thought you were going with them. Did you cancel? They're already boarding. I can't breathe. My fingers feel numb. I put the phone down and press my palms against my thighs, trying to steady myself. The sound of the refrigerator fades. My ears fill with a rushing silence. Images flicker through my mind like a film reel, paying the deposit for the hotel, arranging the private driver, the day Rachel sent me a packing list as if we were all going together. My credit card statements stacked on the counter. I stand up suddenly, grab the phone, and dial Daniel. Straight to voicemail. I dial again. This time the call connects but rings out, no answer. The clock on the wall reads 5:51. I go to the kitchen, open my laptop, and pull up my email confirmation. Everything's in my name. All 3 tickets. The hotel suite. Even the dinner reservations. The phone buzzes once more, another friend sending a photo from Facebook. Daniel smiling at the camera, luggage at his feet. Rachel's caption, "No drama, just love. Family first." The words "family first" hit harder than the text. I open my banking app. A large pending charge glares at me. International travel, 14,762. Date, today. My hand tightens around the phone. I scroll down. There's another smaller charge from 2 days ago, luxury transfer service. Both tied to the same card I'd used for the deposits. A wave of heat floods my face. Not only have they left me behind, they're still spending my money as if I'm on the trip. In the hallway mirror, my reflection stares back, jaw tight, eyes wide, suitcase tags dangling like accusations. I pick up my passport and slip it back into the drawer. The sound of the latch closing feels final. The phone vibrates one last time. This time it's a text from Rachel. "Please respect our privacy. This trip is for family only." I stare at it, thumb hovering over the keyboard. My heart beats in my ears. Then I notice the email alert sliding across my screen. Transaction alert. Large purchase pending, and it feels like a hook sinking into my stomach. It's not just about the trip. I put the phone face down on the counter, close my eyes, and inhale. The kitchen smells faintly of coffee grounds and lemon polish. Outside, a car horn honks. The world is still turning, but mine has shifted. I open the banking app again, click deeper. The pending charge is not only today's travel, but a new authorization hold at the resort for incidentals. Thousands more. My initials listed as primary account holder. Slowly, deliberately, I pick up the phone and scroll back to Daniel's message. You won't be joining us. My wife wants only her family. A tremor moves through me, humiliation, yes, but something colder rising underneath, recognition. I take a screenshot of the charges, forward it to Maya with a single line. Look at this. Then I set the phone down and stare at the suitcases by the door. For the first time in months, I feel the tiniest shift inside me. A click, like a lock turning. I'm no longer waiting to be picked up. 2 weeks before the text, my kitchen looked like a travel agency run by an over-enthusiastic volunteer. Stacks of glossy brochures fanned across the counter. 3 passports lay in a row like cards in a magic trick, mine, Daniel's, and Rachel's. I had printed out itineraries and even color-coded them. Blue for flights, green for hotels, yellow for day trips. I'd spent hours on the phone with the airline, securing upgrades so Daniel could stretch his long legs and Rachel could travel in style. I'd covered the difference on my card, then co-signed for the travel insurance because Rachel didn't like small print. When the confirmation emails rolled in, I forwarded them with little notes, so excited. Counting the days. Rachel always responded with polite emojis. Daniel's replies were shorter but warm. Thanks, Mom. We'll make it special. I'd even lent them my car for their airport errands. You'll need the bigger trunk for luggage, I'd said. They'd smiled, thanked me, and driven off together. The car came back with a full tank and a faint smell of her perfume. On my fridge, a magnet held up the packing list Rachel had texted me. Sun hat, sandals, evening wear for cruise dinner. It felt like being part of a secret club. But beneath the surface, small fractures were appearing. First came the changed locks. One afternoon, I swung by their house to drop off travel adapters. My old key no longer fit. Rachel opened the door, smiling a little too brightly. We had the locks changed, she said. Security upgrade. Then the odd texts. Daniel would message me about flight details, then minutes later send a second text. Actually, Rachel is handling it now. Sometimes Rachel herself would text from his phone. The tone never quite matched his. Then canceled visits. Twice Daniel arranged to meet me for lunch and then bailed last minute with a vague excuse about work. Rachel posted stories from a cafe across town at the same time. I told myself it was stress. Weddings and big trips make people weird. But in the quiet of my own kitchen, I began to notice patterns. Maya noticed too. She'd stop by in the afternoons to help me pack or just sit with tea. They're keeping you busy with the nice stuff so you don't notice the weird stuff, she said one day. Don't be cynical, I said, folding a blouse. I'm not cynical, she said. I'm watching. The week before the trip, Rachel stopped by alone to pick up paperwork. She drifted through my house like she owned it, opening drawers, scanning shelves. At one point, she looked at the family photos on the mantle and said, "You must miss your husband. Do you ever think about downsizing?" I forced a smile. I'm fine here. Well, she said, still looking at the photos, if you ever need help sorting out your assets, Daniel and I can make it easy. I laughed softly, but my skin prickled. That night, unable to sleep, I opened our group chat to reread messages. The thread scrolled back through months of planning, then suddenly cut off. The last visible message from Daniel was 2 weeks old. After that, silence. The next day I overheard something I wasn't meant to. I had FaceTimed Daniel to double-check flight times. He answered distractedly, face half off screen. Can't talk long, he said. In the background, Rachel's voice floated through, muffled but clear enough. Make sure you tell them it's family only. Daniel froze. Mom, I'll call you back, he said quickly, then hung up. I sat there with my phone, heart thudding. Family only. What family? We were supposed to be the family. Later that afternoon, Maya came by and found me standing at the kitchen counter staring at my phone. What's wrong? She asked. They said, family only, I whispered. But not me. She raised an eyebrow. That's the quiet part out loud. The morning after the family only call, I sat at my kitchen table with a mug of coffee gone cold, laptop open like a crime scene. The suitcases still stood by the door, a silent rebuke. I clicked into my bank account, expecting to see the trip's final payment cleared. What I found instead was a maze of charges I hadn't noticed before. At the top, luxury seaside resort. Authorization hold for nearly $15,000. Date, yesterday. The same day Daniel texted me to stay home. I scrolled further down. 2 first-class upgrades purchased 3 weeks ago. A private driver retainer. Several airline charges spaced a few days apart. Each one tied to my card, the one I'd given Daniel, just to make things easier. My pulse climbed. I clicked into the card details. The authorized users list showed Daniel and Rachel both added last winter. I'd never removed them because I hadn't thought I'd need to. I leaned back, trying to remember all the small favors of the past year. Daniel texting, "Mom, can I borrow your Amex just for gas?" Rachel insisting on streamlining the phone bill. Daniel asking me to combine our streaming services because it was cheaper. All of it had seemed harmless, the little cords that bind a family together. Now, in the harsh light of betrayal, they looked like a lattice of control. I clicked over to my cell provider site. Sure enough, my account listed 2 new iPhones I'd never purchased, activated last month. The plan had ballooned in cost. No wonder my auto payments had been creeping upward. I opened my email archive and searched "thank you" from Rachel. Dozens of polite notes thanking me for handling this or covering that. It read like a script of dependence dressed as gratitude. As I scrolled, a flash of memory hit. Daniel at Christmas, gently steering me away from a conversation with my sister. Rachel leaning in later, saying, "You don't need to worry about finances anymore. We're a team now." The word team had felt comforting then. Now it felt like a trapdoor. I clicked back to the bank's main page and opened my savings account. Another pending transaction glared at me. Wire transfer, $48,000 to a beneficiary name I didn't recognize. The note field read prepayment, travel investment. I opened the details. Initiated 6:13 a.m. today, hours after they'd boarded their plane. My heart hammered. Someone had tried to move nearly $50,000 out of my account while I was still asleep. I stared at the cancel pending button. My finger hovered, but didn't click. Instead, I snapped a screenshot, sent it to Maya with one line. "Do you know this name?" A moment later, she replied, "No. Call the bank now." I dialed the bank's fraud line. While on hold, I walked through the house like an animal circling a cage, eyes flicking to the packed suitcases. The automated voice droned about, "Your call is important to us." I hung up before a human answered. My mind was already tumbling through months of tiny choices, giving them my credit card to book the hotel, letting Rachel handle the airline upgrades because she had points, agreeing to combine accounts for family convenience. One by one, I saw how each favor had cut away a piece of my independence. In the living room mirror, I caught my reflection, hair slightly mussed, eyes bright with a strange new clarity. It wasn't just humiliation now. It was data. Maya arrived 10 minutes later with 2 coffees and a determined expression. "Show me," she said. I turned the laptop toward her. She scrolled quickly, then looked up. "This is bigger than a trip. They're treating your accounts like theirs." "They always said it was temporary," I whispered. "Temporary doesn't wire 48 grand to strangers," she said. I pressed my hands to my temples. How did I not see it? "Because you're a mother," she said gently. "You wanted to believe them." I closed the banking tab and opened my email again. This time I searched for wire transfer across all folders. Up popped several confirmation emails over the last 6 months, each just under a reporting threshold. Different payees, different dates. Rachel's email copied on some, Daniel's on others. I clicked through them one by one, my stomach sinking. They hadn't just cut me out of a vacation. They'd been draining me drip by drip, disguised as family logistics. Maya leaned over. "We need a lawyer," she said. "I already have one," I said slowly. "I just didn't think I'd need her for this." My phone buzzed. A new notification from my credit monitoring service. "New address added to your billing profile." Maya's eyes widened. "They're trying to reroute your mail." I took a slow breath. Not anymore. I clicked into my bank settings and began changing passwords, revoking authorizations, removing their names from every account one by one. Each click felt like peeling off a bandage. As I was finishing, another notification appeared on the screen. A pending wire transfer just initiated this morning. This one was larger than the others. 82,000 to an account labeled RCM Holdings. Maya stared. That's Rachel's initials. The transfer had been initiated less than an hour ago, still pending. My hand trembled as I clicked Cancel Transaction. The screen flashed green. Cancelled. But the damage was already done in another way. Now I knew they weren't just slowly siphoning. They were making a grab. Maya sat back. This isn't about a trip anymore. This is an extraction. I turned the laptop toward her. And it just escalated. Before the text, before the transfers, before the locks were changed, there were years when generosity was my language. After my husband died, Daniel was the one thing that kept me upright. He was 19 then, halfway through his second year of college, thin from grief and student living. I didn't hesitate. I paid off his tuition for the rest of his degree. Your father would have wanted this, I said, signing the check. His eyes softened, and for a moment it felt like we were a team, holding each other against the world. Then came his first job offer across the state. He called late at night, voice tight. I can't afford to move, he said. Security deposit, furniture, everything. I wired the money the next morning. Just focus on your work, I told him. When Rachel appeared, I wanted to believe she was a blessing. She was friendly, polite, always calling me Mom, bringing wine when she visited. She seemed to soothe Daniel's rough edges. I helped them with everything, covered their first apartment's rent when his startup salary came late, co-signed the car loan, paid for Rachel's professional certification classes. When Daniel proposed, I bought the ring to give them a head start. Slowly, Rachel began to help with logistics. Let me handle the bills, she'd say. Daniel's so busy. I'll send the thank you cards. I'll update the guest list. She was efficient, cheerful, a natural organizer. But organization has a way of shading into control. First, she asked me to send money directly to her account, so Daniel won't have to juggle transfers. Then she started fielding my calls. He's in a meeting. He's sleeping. We're on a deadline. Weeks would go by before I heard his voice. When birthdays or family holidays rolled around, she sent invitations herself, phrased in ways that made me a guest in my own traditions. Lunch at 1, casual. Don't bring gifts. Small group only. The housewarming party I'd funded down payment, remodeling, furniture, somehow turned into a friends-only event where I was invited just for a brief ribbon cutting. Rachel posted photos on social media framing it as our journey, our hard work, while my name vanished from the story. I saw the pattern but told myself it was harmless. After my husband's sudden death, I clung to Daniel as my anchor. Every check I wrote felt like a promise. I'm still here. You're still mine. Maya noticed. They're building a wall with your money, she said one day. You think you're buying closeness, but you're funding distance. I waved her off. They're just young. It's a stressful time. But the list of my help kept growing. Vacations paid for, business loans guaranteed, a family car in my name but in their garage. Each time I gave, the distance widened a fraction more. The flashbacks come now like scenes from a film. Christmas morning when Rachel gave Daniel a new watch and posted it online, captioned all ours. The day I drove 4 hours to see their new office only to be told meeting canceled. Rachel helping me update my will, then slipping in language about family trusts I didn't understand. That last one sticks. She'd handed me a folder one afternoon, saying brightly, we're organizing paperwork for everyone, just in case something happens. This will make things easy. I skimmed it distractedly, thinking it was a draft of a health proxy. She tapped a page with a manicured finger. We called it the Family Trust. Just sign here to get started. You can change details later. Something in her tone made me pause. I'll review it tonight, I said. She smiled, a flicker too quick. Of course. No rush. She tucked the papers back into the folder and slipped them into her tote bag before I could say more. Weeks passed. I forgot. Now, sitting at my desk late at night with my laptop open to bank statements, the memory snapped into place. I went to my file cabinet and pulled out the thin folder labeled Family Trust Draft. Inside was a single document on heavy paper. At first glance, it looked legitimate. My name at the top, Settler, Daniel and Rachel listed as trustees. But as my eyes scanned the text, my stomach turned. Half the language was boilerplate, but tucked in paragraph 4 was a clause giving them broad power over all current and future holdings. In the signature box at the bottom was my name, but not in my hand. The M looped closed instead of open, the TT in Mitchell crossed with a single slash. I held the page closer. My signature had been forged. The date line read 6 months ago. A sticky note on the margin said, "Needs notarization, bring to bank next time." My hands shook as I laid the paper flat. I flipped it over. On the back was a scrawled list of assets, properties, account numbers, things I'd never given them. The realization bloomed like ice water spreading through my veins. This wasn't about family at all. It was a plan. A years-long slow roll from helping with bills to replacing me on paper. I took a photo of the document with my phone, slid it back into the folder, and locked it in my safe. Maya's words from months ago echoed, "Your funding distance." Now I could see exactly how far they'd built it, right into my signature. By the time Daniel and Rachel's plane touched down overseas, the narrative had already flipped against me. On Facebook, Rachel posted a long note dripping with soft accusations. Sometimes we have to put boundaries around toxic behavior, even from family. The comments swarmed in sympathy. Good for you. Protect your peace. Some people never change. On Instagram, she shared a story of Daniel kissing her forehead at the airport lounge with the caption, "Family only." My phone buzzed with notifications from old friends sending screenshots. Is this about you? Why would she say this? Aren't you on the trip? I sat at my kitchen table in the glow of my laptop, each new ping a tiny hammer tapping away at my composure. It was a strange kind of violence, public but intangible, humiliation by omission. Maya came over and dropped her bag with a thud. "It's a smear campaign," she said bluntly. "They're painting you as the villain before you can speak." I pressed my palms to my temples. They're better at the internet than I am. She slid into the chair across from me. "Stop fighting on their field. Shift the ground. Start pulling records." Her certainty steadied me. I stood, crossed to my filing cabinet, and pulled out a stack of folders. "Let's see what's actually mine," I said. For the next 3 days, my dining room became an evidence lab. We opened envelopes, downloaded statements, printed everything twice. Maya built a spreadsheet. I highlighted dates. Every time I found a charge I didn't recognize, she logged it in red. I went through property deeds, the downtown office, the cottage on the lake, even the storage facility I hadn't visited in years. I pulled my life insurance policies, my will, my annuities. Some things were expected. Rachel added as emergency contact, Daniel as alternate. But the deeper I dug, the stranger it got. The phone plan had ballooned to 5 lines. My auto insurance listed 2 cars I'd never driven. My online brokerage account showed someone logging in from another state at odd hours. At night, when my eyes blurred, I closed the files and walked the quiet halls of my house. The portraits of Daniel as a boy stared back at me from the walls, soft cheeks, missing teeth. A boy who'd once trusted me completely. By day 3, I no longer felt humiliated. I felt sharpened. The narrative online didn't matter. What mattered was proof. Maya noticed the change. "You're different," she said, pouring coffee. I stopped waiting for them to apologize, I said. "I'm building my own story." That afternoon, buried in a folder of old policies, I found it. A beneficiary designation form for a life insurance policy I'd taken out 20 years ago when Daniel started college. I hadn't looked at it in a decade. The top half was familiar, my name, the policy number, the premium. But the bottom half had been updated last year. My handwriting had been replaced with typed entries. In the box marked beneficiary, 2 names glared back, Daniel Mitchell, 50, and Rachel Claire Mitchell, 50. I stared at the signature line. My name floated above it in perfect script, but it wasn't mine. The M looped closed again, the same forged style as the family trust document. The date line matched the week they'd invited me to a family dinner I'd skipped. A small sticky note on the back read, "Processed by agent. Rush." Maya leaned over my shoulder. "What is it?" "They listed themselves as beneficiaries," I whispered. Her eyebrows shot up. "On your life insurance?" "Yes," I said, my voice thin. She took the paper carefully. "This isn't even subtle." "No," I said. "It's a blueprint." For a moment we both sat silent, the hum of the refrigerator loud in the kitchen. This wasn't about a single trip. This was about a years-long scheme, disguised as caretaking, now reaching into the documents that decide who gets what when I'm gone. I pressed my fingers to the counter, steadying myself. "I let them in too far," I said softly. "You were grieving," Maya said. "You thought you were keeping Daniel close." I met her eyes. I was feeding a wolf. Maya folded the paper and slipped it into a new evidence folder. "We take this to Evelyn tomorrow," she said. "You're not alone." I exhaled, the sound more like a hiss. "Tomorrow," I repeated. But even as I spoke, I felt the cold outline of a new resolve forming. Tomorrow wasn't about asking for help. Tomorrow was about moving the pieces I'd hidden years ago, before Daniel had even met Rachel, the pieces they still didn't know existed. I picked up my phone and scrolled back to Rachel's Instagram. There she was in a sundress, smiling at a resort pool, captioned "Boundaries equals freedom." "Enjoy your freedom," I murmured to the screen. Behind me, the evidence folder sat on the table like a loaded trap, waiting for the right moment to spring. By Friday morning, I was done playing defense. The evidence folder had grown fat, rubber-banded tight. Maya drove me downtown to a brick building with frosted glass windows and no sign. Inside, the air smelled of coffee and toner. Evelyn was waiting at the elevator. She'd been my lawyer for years, mostly for real estate closings and the occasional dispute. Today, she had a different look, blazer off, sleeves rolled up. "We're not just reviewing documents," she said. "We're building a case." She ushered me into a small conference room where a man in a gray suit sat hunched over a laptop. "This is Whitaker," she said. "Private investigator. Discreet, thorough." He stood and shook my hand firmly. "I've already started running public records," he said. "Your daughter-in-law leaves a lot of breadcrumbs." He turned the laptop toward me. A digital spiderweb sprawled across the screen, LLCs, mailing addresses, usernames. "She's not just Rachel Mitchell," he said. "We found 3 active bank accounts under variations of her maiden name, plus 2 more offshore flagged for suspicious transfers." My stomach clenched. "And Daniel? He's a signatory on one," Whitaker said. "We're pulling statements now." Evelyn slid a folder across the table. "We also subpoenaed your phone carrier. You're paying for 5 lines. 2 are in states you've never been to." Whitaker clicked another tab. Grainy surveillance images of Rachel visiting a storage unit in another county and a glossy real estate flyer for a luxury apartment in Denver. "Lease signed under a shell company. Paid in cash," he said. "Denver?" I echoed. "They're supposed to be in Europe." Whitaker gave a humorless smile. "They are. For now. But according to the records we found, they're also scheduled to appear at a notary in Colorado next Tuesday." Evelyn leaned forward. "That's where the twist comes in. The vacation is a cover. They've arranged to sign a series of property transfer documents in another state. If you hadn't caught it, by next week they'd be trustees of half your portfolio." I stared at the screen, the pieces clicking into place. "So they're using my credit card to fly overseas, but planning to fly back early?" Whitaker nodded. "One-way flights from Madrid to Denver on Monday. Business class." I leaned back, pulse pounding. How did I not see this? Evelyn gave a small shrug. "You were looking at your son. You didn't think you had to look at the paperwork." For the next hour, we built a counteroffensive. Evelyn drafted letters to freeze every account, revoke every authorization. Whitaker compiled a packet for the bank's fraud unit, including screenshots of forged signatures and beneficiary changes. We scheduled a call with the Attorney General's Elder Exploitation Task Force. I felt like I was stepping back into a role I'd left decades ago: strategist, negotiator, the woman who once built an empire from condemned buildings. My hands stopped shaking. My voice steadied. Whitaker noticed. "You've done this before," he said. "Once," I said softly. "A long time ago. Someone tried to take everything then too. As the day wound down, we sat around the conference table with empty coffee cups and stacks of paper. Whitaker leaned back. "You've already moved most of your assets into a trust, right?" "Yes," I said. "But not all. The rest is in motion." "Good," he said. "That makes you a moving target instead of a sitting one." Evelyn's phone buzzed. She read a text, then looked up. "Journalist at the City Sentinel wants to go public. What do you think?" "Not yet," I said. "Let them sweat first." Whitaker nodded. "We'll give them enough rope. By the time they hit Denver, the paperwork will be blocked and the feds alerted." That night, back home, I stood in my kitchen holding a glass of water, the refrigerator hum filling the silence. Outside, dust settled like a bruise over the neighborhood. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A voicemail notification. Unknown number. I pressed play. At first only static, then a distorted voice, Rachel's, or someone mimicking her. "Stop what you're doing. We know about the investigator. Cooperate or you'll regret it." A click. Silence. My hand tightened around the phone. The words "cooperate or you'll regret it" echoed against the tile floor. Maya appeared in the doorway. "Who is that?" I locked the screen. "No one," I said quietly. "Just confirmation." She frowned. "Of what?" "That we're close," I said. "Close enough to scare them." I slipped the phone into my pocket, exhaled slowly, and felt a strange calm settle in. This wasn't fear anymore. It was proof. Every threat was an admission. Somewhere across the ocean, or perhaps already in Colorado, they were scrambling. And for the first time, I was ahead of them. Long before the suitcases, the text message, and the forged signatures, I had another life. Everyone in Daniel and Rachel's circle thinks of me as a retired teacher, a quiet widow who collects cookbooks and takes long walks. They see my modest car, my understated clothes, my old house with its peeling shutters. They don't see the other ledger, the one behind the scenes. But I remember exactly when the double life began. I was 27, living on coffee and adrenaline, teaching high school during the day and hustling real estate on nights and weekends. By 32, I'd built a small but profitable portfolio of rental properties. My first husband, Daniel's father, was proud but cautious, the one who handled the taxes and banking. Then came the betrayal. Not by him, but by a business partner who forged my name on a refinancing deal, draining my lines of credit and nearly bankrupting me. I came home one night to find our bank account frozen and a stack of legal notices on the porch. We fought our way back slowly, but the lesson burned in. Trust is leverage, and leverage cuts both ways. After my husband died suddenly in his early 40s, I faced a choice: cash out and live small, or rebuild smarter. I chose the second. This time, I built the empire quietly. Shell companies, cross-owned LLCs, land purchased under maiden names, art collected under corporate umbrellas. Hotels, warehouses, apartment complexes. On paper, I looked like a woman with a small pension. In reality, I was controlling 8 figures of assets from behind a curtain. Daniel knew none of it. Not because I didn't trust him, but because I wanted him to build his own life, not orbit mine. But after Rachel entered the picture, I began to see flickers of the same pattern I'd survived years ago. Charm, then isolation, then control over paperwork. It was like déjà vu with new actors. Now, standing at my desk in the dim light, I opened the old steel safe in my study. Inside were 3 binders labeled in code: North, Cedar, Lily. Each held the keys to shell companies, trust deeds, and offshore accounts Rachel didn't even know existed. I flipped through them, remembering the nights I'd drafted these structures with an accountant who insisted on secure channels, the years of discipline it had taken to maintain the facade. On my desk lay the life insurance form with the forged beneficiary update. Next to it, the forged family trust. Both amateur moves compared to what I'd once seen in boardrooms. I thought about Daniel as a boy, sitting at the kitchen table with crayons, drawing my house while I balanced the checkbook. He'd never seen the other me, the one who negotiated with lenders twice her size. I still loved him, but love without boundaries had turned me into prey. I opened my encrypted drive and loaded a document Evelyn had drafted, but I hadn't signed yet: the Evergreen Trust. It was the nuclear option, a hidden vehicle designed to absorb all remaining assets and lock them out forever. Not just a trust, but a labyrinth. Funds moved to one entity, then another, finally to an irrevocable foundation under Lily's name. No one could touch it without her signature decades from now. My cursor hovered over the line, execute transfer. Maya appeared in the doorway, holding 2 mugs of tea. "You're going to do it?" she asked softly. I looked up at her. "Do you think I should?" "I think you've already decided," she said. "You're just mourning what it means." She set the tea down and left me to the screen. I thought back to the trauma flashback, the bankruptcy notices, the night we sold our car to pay lawyers, the way people disappeared when the money did. That moment had carved something permanent into me. Never again. Now I saw how Daniel and Rachel had stepped into the same playbook, thinking I was a harmless widow with an old house. They had no idea they were trying to con someone who'd survived bigger predators. I clicked execute transfer. A secure token appeared on my phone. I entered the code. The screen flashed. Transfer complete. Assets moved to Evergreen Trust. I exhaled slowly. In that moment, decades of discipline locked into place like steel beams. Rachel could forge all the documents she wanted. Daniel could believe whatever narrative he'd been fed. None of them could touch Evergreen. I closed the laptop and slid it into the safe. The click of the lock echoed like a vault door ceiling. But I didn't tell Daniel. Not yet. I wanted him to see with his own eyes who Rachel really was before I revealed the full truth. I took the tea, walked to the window, and looked out at the darkened street. Somewhere across the ocean, or maybe already in Denver, they were planning their signatures, believing I was still in their grasp. They didn't know the ground had shifted under their feet. I whispered to the glass, "This ends with me." Behind me, the safe held the binders, the hard drives, the trust documents, a hidden architecture no forged signature could penetrate. Sunday night, Maya and I sat hunched over Whitaker's laptop in my dining room. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet. Inside, my home glowed with the blue light of open tabs. Whitaker had just cracked the final breadcrumb. "They're moving on your downtown office building," he said, tapping the screen. "Mortgage application filed under your forged power of attorney, not yet funded. They're scheduled to sign at a notary in Denver Tuesday morning. If it goes through, they'll walk away with a 7-figure loan secured by your property." My stomach lurched. "That's the building I bought in cash 20 years ago," I said. "It's paid off. They're trying to put a lien on it," he said. "And then they'll use the cash as collateral to open their own credit line. It's clean on paper if no one checks signatures." I exhaled slowly, then reached for my phone. "We're not going to let them." Whitaker's eyes glinted. "Exactly. At 9 p.m., we executed the counterstrike. Evelyn conference called the bank's fraud department, sending over our packet of forged signatures and beneficiary changes. Whitaker emailed the entire dossier to the Attorney General's Elder Exploitation Task Force and CC'd a contact at the State Banking Commission. I drafted an anonymous tip to a journalist I trusted. Subject line, high-level family fraud in progress, proof attached. We hit send. By midnight, the ripple effect had begun. Twitter caught wind first, a local journalist tweeting, "Major elder exploitation case brewing. Sources say forged POA on a downtown landmark building." Developing. Within an hour, 2 narratives exploded online. Rachel's loyal followers posted sympathy hashtags, a rival thread posted my leaked evidence under. The timelines scrolled past each other like warring tides. Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, scrolling her phone. "They're calling you jealous," she said. "They're saying you couldn't handle being excluded from the trip." I smiled thinly. Let them. My phone buzzed with direct messages from journalists, former colleagues, even strangers. "Do you have more proof? Can you confirm these documents?" I ignored them all. For the first time in months, I felt calm. This was the eye of the storm I'd built myself. At 3 a.m., Whitaker's phone rang. He answered, listened, then handed it to me. "Bank Fraud Division," he mouthed. "Mrs. Mitchell," a crisp voice said. "We've received credible documentation of forged signatures on your property. We've frozen all pending transfers effective immediately. We're also coordinating with the Attorney General's office." I closed my eyes. Relief washed over me in a tremor. "Thank you," I whispered. The voice continued, "We may need your presence for a sworn statement. We'll be in touch tomorrow." I hung up, hand trembling. Maya stared at me. "Is it done?" "Not done," I said, but caught. As dawn bled into the kitchen, I imagined Rachel and Daniel somewhere between time zones, phones buzzing with fraud alerts. They'd land in Denver expecting a simple signature and find themselves blocked by an invisible wall. I pictured Rachel's face when she realized the game had flipped, that the retired widow she'd been siphoning had set a trap. I poured coffee into 2 mugs. Maya raised hers in a toast. "To your fortress," she said. "To the truth catching up," I replied. At 7 a.m. my phone rang again. "Unknown number." I answered. "Mrs. Mitchell?" "Yes. This is the Attorney General's office. We've initiated an emergency hold on accounts associated with Rachel Claire Mitchell and Daniel Mitchell. We'll need your cooperation to secure further evidence. Our team will reach out for an interview today." I swallowed hard. "You're calling me first?" "Yes," the voice said. "You were the complainant and your evidence was decisive." A click, then silence. I lowered the phone. Maya's eyes widened. "That was them." I nodded. "They froze everything." She grinned. "So much for their secret signing." I leaned against the counter, a strange mix of triumph and sadness swelling in my chest. They were my family, but now they were also suspects. I looked at the pile of binders and documents on the table, my life's work laid bare. This wasn't the victory I'd imagined, but it was the one I'd prepared for. Outside, the first birds began to sing. The airport lounge smelled of polished wood, espresso, and jet fuel drifting in from the gates. Business travelers murmured into Bluetooth headsets, wheels of carry-ons clicking across the tile. At one corner of the bar, a cluster of palm plants framed the entrance like a stage curtain. I spotted them immediately. Daniel in his gray sport coat, Rachel in a cream linen dress, scrolling her phone with the air of someone who owned the place. Their champagne flutes were still half full. She laughed at something he said, then tapped on her screen again. Beside me, Evelyn adjusted her glasses and murmured, "Ready." I nodded once, my heart beating steady. My lawyer carried a slim briefcase, Whitaker trailing a few steps behind with a manila envelope. We looked like 3 commuters. We crossed the lounge. Rachel glanced up first, froze, then forced a smile. Daniel turned, confusion flickering across his face. "Mom," he said, "what are you doing here?" I stopped 2 feet away, calm but electric. "I'm here because this is the only place you can't hang up," I said softly. Rachel's smile cracked. "This is inappropriate," she hissed. "We're traveling." "Yes," I said. "To Denver." "Not Madrid." "To sign papers on my property." Papers forged with my name. Around us, a few heads turned. The murmur of the lounge thinned. Daniel frowned. "What are you talking about?" Evelyn opened her briefcase and laid 3 documents on the nearest table: the forged family trust, the forged life insurance beneficiary form, and the mortgage application for my downtown building. "These are your wife's handiwork," she said evenly. "We've filed them with the Attorney General and the bank fraud unit." Rachel's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at the screen, then swiped quickly. It buzzed again. Another alert. Then another. "Accounts frozen," I said quietly. "Every one of them. Transfers blocked. Properties protected." Daniel's eyes darted between Rachel and me. "Rachel?" She reached for his arm. "She's lying. This is a setup. Look at your phone," I said. He pulled out his own phone, scanned the notifications. His face drained. Transaction denied. Mortgage flagged. Wire canceled. He looked up at her. "What did you do?" Rachel shot to her feet, voice sharp. "You can't ambush us like this." Evelyn remained calm. "Consider yourself served," she said, sliding a sealed letter across the table. Rachel backed away a step, clutching her handbag. Her phone buzzed again and again, a chorus of failure. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Her eyes flicked to the exit. Whitaker shifted slightly, blocking her path without making it obvious. Daniel stared at his wife. "All those documents, the trust, the insurance. You said Mom was confused." You said she wanted us to handle things. Rachel snapped. She's a manipulator. She built everything on lies. She's been hiding money for years. I said nothing. I just looked at Daniel. He dropped his gaze. Rachel yanked her bag open and began rifling through it, fingers trembling. She pulled out a small black USB drive attached to a silver keychain and clutched it like a talisman. You have no idea what's on this, she hissed. All her secrets. Everything she's done. A ripple moved through the lounge as people realized a scene was unfolding. Phones angled discreetly to record. I said quietly, security already knows. Rachel's head snapped up. What? 2 airport security officers approached from opposite sides of the lounge. Ma'am, one said evenly. We need you to come with us. Rachel backed toward the exit, holding the USB drive aloft. You think you've won? You don't know half of it. Daniel half stood. Rachel, stop. She turned to him, eyes blazing. You're nothing without me. She'll cut you off. We'll have nothing. Daniel's face crumpled. We already have nothing, he said quietly. She spun toward the exit. Whitaker stepped aside just enough for the security officers to move in. One reached for her wrist. Give me the device, ma'am. She clutched it tighter. No, this is my insurance policy. The second officer blocked the door. Hand it over. For a moment, everything went silent. No clinking glasses, no rolling suitcases, just the hush before a wave breaks. Then, slowly, theatrically, Rachel extended the USB drive. The officer took it, slipped it into an evidence bag, and sealed it. Cameras flashed as bystanders took photos. Rachel stood frozen, shoulders heaving. Daniel sat back down heavily, face in his hands. Evelyn closed her briefcase. Whitaker touched my elbow lightly. It's done, he murmured. But I knew it wasn't done. That USB was a black box, a mystery that could still explode. I looked at Rachel one last time. Her eyes burned with fury, but under it I saw something else, calculation. Even cornered, she was plotting the next move. I turned to Daniel. You're free to come home when you're ready, I said softly. But first you need to decide who you are without her. He didn't answer. We walked out of the lounge into the bright concourse. Behind us, security escorted Rachel down a side corridor, the USB drive sealed in a plastic pouch. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with finality. This was the confrontation I'd been building toward, not in a courtroom, but in public, in real time, with strangers watching and phones recording. Somewhere a child cried. A flight announcement echoed overhead. The world went on. But for us, something had shifted permanently. By the following week, the story had moved from rumor to headline. Every major outlet carried it. Airport arrest opens multi-state elder exploitation case. Authorities freeze assets in forged trust scandal. Wealthy widow outsmarts alleged con artist daughter-in-law. The Attorney General's office held a press conference announcing the seizure of multiple properties, offshore accounts, and luxury vehicles tied to Rachel Claire Mitchell and her shell companies. On the screen behind the spokesperson, diagrams of bank transfers glowed like spider webs. Reporters asked about the Evergreen Trust and the downtown office building. The spokesperson declined to comment, but confirmed that swift action by the victim prevented a large-scale financial crime. When they played footage of the airport lounge, Rachel's arrest, the USB drive sealed in an evidence bag, the audience gasped. Someone had captured the moment she shouted, "You don't know half of it," before being led away. Sitting in Evelyn's office with coffee and a box of tissues, I watched it all play out on a muted TV. It felt like looking at a movie in which I'd played the lead, but couldn't quite remember filming. Whitaker closed his laptop. "They've found 2 more properties in Colorado," he said, all tied to her aliases. "The IRS is auditing. She won't see daylight for a long time." Evelyn turned to me. "Your portfolio is secure. Evergreen Trust worked exactly as planned. They can't touch it." I nodded slowly. Relief and grief braided together in my chest. "It's strange," I said. "I built this fortress years ago. Never thought I'd have to use it against my own family." Daniel arrived later that afternoon. He didn't text first. He just knocked, standing on the porch like a schoolboy called to the principal's office. His shoulders slumped, his eyes rimmed red. I opened the door but didn't step aside immediately. We just looked at each other through the screen door. Finally, I pushed it open. "Come in." In the kitchen, he sat at the table, hands folded, silent for a long time. Then he said, "They showed me everything. The forged documents. The bank accounts." I didn't believe it until his voice cracked. "Until the airport." I poured him tea, set the mug in front of him. "What happens next is up to you," I said softly. He stared at his hands. I let her do it. I didn't sign, but I didn't stop her. I wanted to believe she was just ambitious. That you were exaggerating. I sat across from him. "You're still my son, but you have to take responsibility. Love isn't an excuse." His shoulders shook. "I don't know how to fix it." "You start by rebuilding your life," I said. "And you protect your daughter from this pattern." He looked up at me then, eyes wet. "You moved everything into a trust." "Yes." "For Lily." "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Good." We sat together in the quiet kitchen. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was an opening, a bridge across the wreckage. The next day, the AG's office called to update me. They'd cracked the USB. Inside were spreadsheets detailing every fraudulent transaction, plus evidence of another scheme Rachel had been running in 3 other states. It wasn't an insurance policy, it was a confession waiting to happen. They thanked me for my cooperation and confirmed restitution proceedings would begin once sentencing was complete. "You'll be made whole," the investigator said. "But frankly, you already protected yourself better than we could." After hanging up, I walked to the window. The magnolia tree out front had begun to bloom. The world kept turning. That evening, when the house was quiet, I sat at my desk and opened my phone. A video compilation had been sent by one of the journalists, a montage of the entire saga. The text message, "You won't be joining us. My wife wants only her family." My shocked face in the hallway mirror. Rachel's Instagram posts implying boundaries and toxic relatives. The spreadsheets of forged signatures. The bank fraud alert. The airport lounge confrontation, Rachel's phone buzzing, Daniel's face collapsing, the USB drive bagged as evidence. Then it cut to me leaving the lounge, coat catching the air, Evelyn at my side, Whitaker behind. I pressed pause. On screen, I saw not a victim, but a strategist, shoulders back, gaze steady, lips curved in something like relief. For the first time in years, I felt taller in my own skin. I whispered to the still image, "You built this rescue." I scrolled forward to the last clip, Daniel at my kitchen table, eyes lowered, mug of tea between his hands. I didn't know yet whether we'd reconcile fully. But for the first time, that question wasn't about survival. It was about choice. Later, I walked through the house turning off lights. The safe clicked shut behind me. The evergreen trust papers rested inside like a heartbeat. In the living room, the suitcases still stood by the door. I touched one, then unzipped it and began unpacking. One by one, folded clothes returned to drawers. Tickets went into the shredder. On the counter, my phone buzzed, a message from Maya. "Dinner tomorrow? Just us." I typed back, "Yes." I set the phone down and exhaled. The house smelled faintly of lemon polish and night air drifting through an open window. For the first time in months, the silence felt like freedom, not loneliness. I glanced once more at the paused video on my phone. The frame showed me striding out of the airport lounge, coat billowing, the crowd parting. The caption one journalist had used beneath it floated through my mind, from trusting mother to architect of her own rescue. I smiled faintly, clicked the phone off, and walked into the darkened hallway.